Okay, we're
Bob,
waiting
we're all
for-
here.
We've got Michelle. We're all here.
Yeah,
Terrific.
we're all here.
Terrific, terrific.
And I think Andrea's still in her high school reunion Zoom name.
Okay.
Oh, yes, I am. How do I do
Andrea, your camera looks so clear and clean. It's really nice to see you.
that? Oh, good. Thank you. I'm going to rename. Yes, sorry.
So we'll begin the meeting. Greetings, one and all. This is the Narberth Borough Council meeting for Wednesday, May 19th, 2021. I'm Bob Weisbord, the Council Vice President, and I'll be sitting in for Aaron Muderick, who's not able to be here tonight. We have a quorum, so let's begin. Agenda item 1, the meeting will now come to order. Agenda item 2, Michelle Carroll, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Fred Bush,
Here.
Mona Elshax,
Present.
Rob McGreevy,
Here.
Michelle Pananopoulos,
Here.
Cindy Rickers,
Here.
Vice President Bob Weisbord,
I'm here.
Mayor Andrea Deutsch,
Here.
Borough President Aaron Muderick is absent.
Absent. Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Councillor Elshax, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Does anyone have a flag? I'm sorry, I don't have one.
I do not have a mini flag with me.
Oh, wait,
but I'd be
Cindy's
delighted
got us. I think Cindy's got it there. Hang on one moment. Thank you, Mona.
Sorry, we appear to be out of stamps.
Oh, well, let's do it anyway.
Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag.
of the United States of
To
America
America and to the republic
for
which it
which it
stands,
stands,
And
one nation, under God,
indivisible, with
with
liberty
liberty
and
and
justice
justice
for all.
for all.
Thank you. Agenda item 3, President's comments. Again, President Muderick's not able to be here tonight and has asked me to facilitate this meeting. I don't have any comments, but I would like to take this moment to appoint our office manager, Michelle Carroll, to the position of interim borough secretary until our new manager, Samantha Bryant, begins her time here. This is just an administrative matter that we need to deal with so that we can have Michelle record and prepare the documents for the meeting. So may I please have a motion to appoint Michelle Carroll to the role of interim borough secretary?
I move to appoint Michelle Carroll to the role of interim borough secretary.
A second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Fred. And is there any discussion? Mona?
I just want to take this time to thank Michelle publicly for doing an amazing job over the past several months of helping us to keep our ship going. We were down a borough manager and then an assistant manager, and here's Michelle keeping us afloat till Samantha Bryant takes office in a couple of weeks, a week or two. So a week, less than a week. Anyway, 5 days. Michelle, you are amazing. Thank you so much from all of us.
Other comments? All in favor? It looks like it's unanimous, 6 votes. Thank you. Congratulations, Michelle. You're our interim borough secretary. Agenda item 4, Mayor Deutsch, do you have a report for us tonight?
I do. Thank you so much. First off, thank you, Michelle, for once again, thank you for all you've done. Next, we had an election yesterday, a primary election, and I just want to thank everyone who participated by voting or running or doing whatever they did to keep democracy alive. Congratulations to everyone who won their election, and a very big thank you to everyone who participated by running or doing anything to volunteer on behalf of the community. It takes a village to keep a village running. So very much appreciated. Secondly, I will be submitting the monthly police report submitted by Chief Gallagher, and we'll do that electronically. And lastly is a big announcement. In accordance with the changes given by the CDC and the changes announced by Governor Wolf, that he is lifting all restrictions in Pennsylvania related to COVID-19 as of March 31st, except for the mask mandate, which he has also modified to be in accordance with the CDC regulations. I am lifting my declaration of state of emergency in the borough as of the same date, March 31st. So I will be lifting the mayor's restrictions, all the restrictions set by that declaration of emergency as of the same date that Governor Wolf is lifting all the restrictions that he's lifting on March 31st.
Mayor?
Thank
Yes.
you, Mayor.
Thank
Questions
you.
for the mayor?
Yes, I do have a question. Thank you. For clarification for any community members who are listening, would you mind sort of briefly summarizing which restrictions were specific to your order and whether there are, and which ones may not be lifted by this action at the end of the month?
So things that are particular to Narberth are lifted. So restrictions on the parks and the buildings. I guess I'm not sure the technicalities with regard to the mask mandate, whether Borough Council has to lift their declaration of emergency first to make it official, but on my end, it is lifted, the mask mandate. Remember, while it's lifted, if you're unvaccinated, you're still required to be wearing a mask under Governor Wolf's order. And also if you go into a store or different areas of the borough, stores and restaurants are allowed to have their own rules and restrictions with regard to masks. So some stores may still choose to have you wear a mask when you go in there. But the mandate under the ordinance is lifted under my end.
Okay, so as of June 1st, Borough Hall will be open. Is that accurate? And would people be able to enter without masks?
We'll be meeting in the emergency management order to determine whether they can enter without masks. That will be a determination. That's a good question. We'll be determining it then. The building will be open.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. McGreevy.
Mayor, can you clarify the date? Do you mean May 31st?
May 31st. Did I say
Okay.
March?
I heard March. I wanted to
I'm sorry. I stumbled over my words. I meant May.
Okay.
Thank you for clarification, Rob. Ms. Rickards, do you have a?
Same comment about the date, but I will have so that means bathrooms will be open, the basketball courts will be back open as of June 1st, or that will be decided in the emergency management meeting as well?
From my end, as of May 31st, everything will be open.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Are there any other questions for the mayor? Ms. Elshax.
You're on mute.
Thank you. Mayor Deutsch, I heard you say March 31st and May 31st. And
I stumbled on my words. I meant May.
Thank you. I didn't know if you were saying retroactively or not.
No. May 31st.
Anything more? Anything more, Mayor?
No, that is it. If anybody has questions, I'm happy to field them. Email me. Let me know. But all restrictions, things will go back to normal in our parks and public buildings.
Okay, thank you very much for the news and congratulations on winning the party primary yourself.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Agenda item 5, it's time for public comment. This is the opportunity for during the meeting for the council to hear from you, members of the general public, on any topic of concern to the borough or you. If you'd like to comment when you're called, please state your name, your address of residence, and we'll give you 3 minutes to speak. Let's see. I'm going to just call on you, and if you have a comment, please unmute and direct your comment to the council. I see Frank Perry on the right. Do you have a comment for the council?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Thank you. I see CAROLMARIE Scanlon.
Yes, I would just like to remind council that Sabine Avenue has a continuing problem of traffic going the wrong way on our street. And it's especially dangerous since we are right next to the playground. Cars are going the wrong way. We had a near miss this week with a child. So I would like to just remind council and ask when we're going to be reviewed for our one-way signs.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Callan, do you have a comment for council?
No comment.
And I see our chief and our borough engineer. Am I missing anyone? I don't think so. Okay, thanks so much. Action items. We're moving on the agenda to the action item part 6. Action item A. Do we have a motion on the table, Cindy?
Yep, I have it. I move the Borough Council approve the minutes of the April 7th, 2021 workshop meeting and April 21st, 2021 business meeting of Borough Council.
You may have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. The ayes have it. Majority, unanimous. Action item B.
I move that. I move that Borough Council approve the schedule of bills dated April 15th through May 12th, 2021 for the general fund in the amount of $185,425.78, highway aid fund in the amount of $7,138.57, sewer fund in the amount of $14,097.99, solid waste fund in the amount of $111,650.75, and authorize the borough manager to pay all bills.
Do we have a second? Rob, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? And it's unanimous. Thank you. Action item C.
I move that Borough Council accept the grant of an indefinite extension for 146 Marion Ave, tentative sketch plan approval.
And is there a second? Mr. Bush, thank you. And Mr. Walco, could you please brief us on this particular motion and answer questions?
Yes, just to give some background on this matter, it's a relative common matter where developments come before council to get extension letters, which means that, as you may know, under the municipality's planning code, council has 90 days from the time of a plan submission to review and act on that plan. Before that time, the applicant usually meets with the planning commission, hopefully gets a recommendation, and then it comes before council. In this situation, there was a plan for this property that came before the planning commission, and the planning commission had discussions with the applicant related to the possibility of preserving one of the buildings or the building that is on the property. Instead of what was been proposed in the current plan was to demolish that building and to subdivide the lot and have buildings on both properties. It seems that the applicant is interested in potentially pursuing that as an option to preserve the building on the property. And as a result, they have submitted a second plan that maintains that building. And I believe that was recently filed. And they would like to move forward on that second plan. Now, it's completely appropriate to have two active plans on the property. From their feedback from the Planning Commission, again, they think the second plan is probably the more desirable plan from the commission, but they don't want to just throw away their current plan that calls for the demolition. So what they're saying for council is, hey, you do not need to take action on that first plan. We don't need to come back here in another 30 days, 60 days, 90 days and ask for another extension. But essentially what they're saying is we're going to move forward on the second plan, and hopefully that second plan may get developed. And then if if it does, they'll withdraw the first plan. If that second plan doesn't move forward, they will then notify us that they decide to move forward with the active plan. And then they will then start a new 90-day review clock. So that is the idea of the extension, to not have council act on that plan. Today, I believe, according to the review clock, council would have to take action at tonight's meeting on that plan, or call a special meeting on that plan specifically.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Walco. Now what we'll do is we'll have a council discussion, and if you have questions for Mr. Walco, we'll do those now. Ms. Panelopoulos.
You know what? Let Rob go. He had his hand up.
Mr.
before I did.
McGreevy.
Okay.
Rob, you're muted.
Sorry, John, thank you for that. My understanding was a bit different when I read the letter from Mr. Fromhold. It seems as though the new plan accepted May 10th also calls for 4 units, and including the demolition of the current house. And in the letter, he indicates that the owners are considering another plan, not yet submitted, that would avoid the demolition. And so I just wanted to be clear on what we're actually voting on. Are we voting to extend indefinitely this plan submitted on May 10th, which calls for the demolition?
No, you're voting on, so that plan, and I'm sorry, maybe I might have misspoke if that is the case. I haven't seen the plans, I've only seen the letter. But there is, and I guess the other aspect of this is that apparently one of the plans that they need to preserve the building would require either a text change or zoning relief, because it's not code compliant, which was the idea of, they're going to need text changes in order to make that work, which is not knowing how long that could take, which is again why they had the extension. So the plan, so there might be a third plan coming, but the original plan was submitted, and the 90 days would be up this May. That was the plan that was before the Planning Commission previously. And that plan was submitted, accepted on February 3rd. The second plan was submitted on May 10th, or accepted on May 10th, and council has until August 18th still to take action on that plan, unless that plan is extended as well. And according to the review schedule, that plan is proposed to go before the Planning Commission on July 5th, with a council meeting presentation on July 21st, a potential second Planning Commission on August 2nd, and then be before council, unless again extended, on the August 18th. So that is
John?
yes. So Miss,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
And then Michelle, Ms. Panelopoulos has a question for you, John.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt. I thought you were done. My apologies.
I wanted to go through the timelines with council. So that was the second plan. Looks like it's scheduled to have at least August to act on that second plan that was submitted this month.
Okay, so here, I think that there's just been a misunderstanding or miscommunication somewhere along the way. I think it's confusing because there's been a lot of different plans here and there. Last November, there was a preliminary sketch that was just brought before Planning Commission for discussion. It was never a plan that was submitted and accepted, right? And that showed 2 units in the side yard, right? And preservation of the original house. Then in February, there was a tentative sketch plan submitted, which showed demolition of the house and 2 twins, right? So subdivision into 4 lots with 2 twins. That was reviewed by the county and the Planning Commission, et cetera, and the engineer. I think that there was discussion. I wasn't at the Planning Commission meeting, but my understanding, there was some concern that it might not actually be a by right plan, there may be some problems with the twins' facades being too large specifically, and maybe some other things. So then the second tentative sketch plan, which does not appear to be a revision of the February plan, that is to say, it's come with its own separate saldo application. So I think it's simply a new date that was submitted on April 26th and accepted May 10th, is the one on the table. But that also shows a subdivision into 4 lots with 2 sets of twins and does not preserve the house. So it seems to me that right now there's a fresh plan in May. The ball is in the borough's court to review that, and there's nothing that needs to be sort of told with respect to preserving rights in a plan that preserves the house. So I'm feeling this motion might be out of sync with what's been going on. So that's my best understanding, that there isn't a plan on the table that's been submitted that preserves the house that we need to worry about extending a timeline on at this time, although there may be one actually submitted in the future.
Correct, but I think the idea is to extend the plans that remove the house to allow time for a plan to preserve the house to be submitted. However, in order for that to occur, it would need a zoning text change or potentially zoning relief in order to make that occur.
I see. But since we have till August, it seems like there's no pressing need to do it.
But that's on the second. That's on the second plan. On the second plan, there is still the first plan that was submitted in February that was reviewed. There are two active plans, and I believe Mr. Yon is here, so he probably he's the one who submitted the plans. But this would be the 90 days up from the February plan, the first plan. There is no rush. We have till August on the second plan, and a potential third plan has not been submitted.
Let me try asking this another way, Michelle. If the council does not vote in favor of providing this extension tonight, does the applicant have the right to go ahead with that? Would the applicant simply go ahead with the plan they have?
Well, then council would have to take a vote on that plan. I'm not in a position to talk to the details of that plan. It has not been formally recommended or not recommended by the Planning Commission at this time because it's been sort of held in abeyance with the idea that it would be extended. But if there was no action taken by council, that plan would be a deemed approval for whatever is shown on that plan. Now, that's just a tentative sketch plan. They still have to come back from a preliminary plan and a final plan. But there needs to be either an extension or action taken on the first plan that was submitted in February or today. And again, that would not impact the second plan. The council has till August.
But so just to ask it this way, does providing this extension keep open the option that they might choose to restore the house?
Yes.
And
I mean,
by not providing the extension, they still have the option to keep the house.
Yes, they can always submit.
So what are they actually asking us for in this case?
But well, again, so a council has to make a decision one way or another within the 90 days for a plan that was submitted. That plan was submitted, that 90 days is coming up. If council doesn't take any action, it's a deemed approval of that.
I follow. Yeah. This is like this built into Commonwealth, into the municipality's planning code, that it would be deemed approved if we didn't take an action.
So what the applicant is saying is, look, you don't have to, we'll give you more than 90 days to make that decision. You don't have to make a decision one way or another.
Right.
And we're not telling you when you have to make a decision because although we're not going to withdraw that plan, we would like to pursue alternative plans. And again, before council, all that's been submitted is that second plan that apparently still demolishes the building. It doesn't mean they can't submit a third plan.
I would just suggest an amendment to this motion then in that case, because there is a second tentative sketch plan, which effectively is the same as the first tentative sketch plan, but probably better and more likely to move forward and be approved. I think that's why it's there. So if we would like to do something so we don't wind up in the problem of having to take action on this plan without feeling fully, the first plan, the February plan, without feeling fully briefed, I would suggest we just limit the extension to make the deadline to act on it the same as for the second tentative sketch plan in August, rather than make it indefinite. I would just
like to amend the language.
I would amend it to change, instead of indefinite, to make it, I don't have the dates for the second tentative sketch plan, but I would
replace the word indefinite with a time frame.
Yeah, I would put the same time frame as the second tentative sketch plan, so they can both be sort of resolved at the same time.
And that would be the August 18th.
Dangling.
The August 18th Borough Council meeting would be the time currently that the second plan would be up at a regular meeting date.
So we have on the table right now is a motion to replace the word indefinite with a specific time frame to match the second tentative sketch, the timing of the second tentative sketch plan, which would be, is it the deadline then August 18th, John?
It would really be up to council because of the offer of the indefinite extension, but the second plan, unless that second plan is later extended, action would have to be taken at the August 18th council meeting or a special meeting thereafter called.
Can you let's see. Do we, so we actually have on the table a motion to replace the word indefinite with the time frame, the same as the second tentative sketch, to be similar to the second tentative sketch plan. Is there a second to that motion so we can discuss it?
Bob, you have some questions waiting in the wings. I
Well,
had one
let's
and
see,
Fred had one.
but we have a motion on the table. I want to deal with it. And so.
If people have questions I'm going to withdraw the motion. I can bring it later. Let's
thank you.
Questions
Thank you.
I apologize for
Thank you, Ms.
jumping on that.
Panopoulos. So we will that motion's been withdrawn to replace the word indefinite with the time frame. So are there other questions for Mr. Walker, Mr. Bush?
Well, this is partly about the amendment, but I mean that they're giving us something, right? This is something they're granting us because we have to make this decision, and they're saying, okay, you have some extra time to make this decision. So I don't see why it's to our advantage to limit that. And we can always come in and make a decision or change that. But I mean, right? This is something they're granting us.
Correct.
So I don't see the advantage in. I mean,
Anybody else have a comment or question? Cindy?
Yeah.
Or Rob, Mr. McGreevy.
Okay. Well, John, I wanted to ask you about the demolition because in the letter from Mr. Fromhold, it reads as if the owners are trying to lock in the option of demolition for fear that there could be a ban on demolitions coming with the HARB, So can you just talk us through, is there some downside, from the council perspective to granting this extension? Yeah.
No, I don't see a downside. I think that the only issue with the indefinite extension is if it was to get lost track of administratively, but in that case, they would have to prompt council to start the 90-day clock again. So even in that case, isn't something that we could forget about and come back to bite us. For purposes of the demolition permit, they can always get a demolition permit, and that's not really related to land development. You can get that apart from land development, and it appears that they are choosing to obtain that permit to preserve their rights under these older plans in case it pans out that they're not able to come up with a successful plan that preserves the new building. I read that the same way. But again, that granting extension does not really impact the obtaining of the permit in any way, apples and oranges.
Bob, if I can ask my question.
Ms. Roberts.
So to clarify again, by granting this extension, it gives our neighbor time to think of a plan that they are comfortable with that would preserve a beloved house in our community. So I'm for that, because I really hope that our neighbor again can be persuaded to keep what is a really beautiful home. However, if the property owner moves forward with a plan that preserves the home and then adds a dwelling or two dwellings, they would be asking for not a variance, but a change in our code. If we were to do a change in a code, we couldn't do spot zoning. We would therefore need to reimagine our code across the borough. Is this all correct? Because that leads me to my question of saying, well, then that certainly can't happen by August.
Well,
so I guess, am I correct?
Yes, well, they could always ask for a variance, and that's something that they could seek that relief. And if they were denied the variance, then they can't do it through the variance path. Then they would have to obtain a text amendment to actually have it permitted by right. Depending on how the code is amended, and this is where sort of the creativity of planners and engineers and lawyers come in. It doesn't necessarily have to be spot zoning if it's tailored in a right way, but certainly it can't be done in a way where it only applies to this particular property.
Okay, correct. And we can't assess that yet because we don't have the third plan. So we don't know, would this be a variance or would this be a text change?
And I think it would be mighty ambitious to try to have something in place, particularly with the 30 days to have a zoning ordinance reviewed by the planning commissions and another plan to have that plan in place by August. That would preserve the building if a plan is even submitted in that way.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? I guess I'll make one then. If Fred, you were suggesting that this is harmless for us to extend this this amendment to allow them to pursue additional options for plans to save the house, it seems to me that it probably is in our interest as a community to create as many opportunities as possible for anyone to save an existing and important structure within the borough. So I'd like to see us vote in the affirmative for this, but that's my view. Any other? So all in favor? I count 4 hands. Am I missing somebody? All opposed? I count 2 hands. The vote is carried 4-2. Thank you all. And agenda item 6, action item D. Does somebody have a motion?
Yep, that's me. I move the Borough Council adopt resolution 2021-011 approving preliminary subdivision plan for 2-lot resident subdivision at 230 Dudley Ave.
Is there a second? Mr. Bush. Mr. Walker, would you please walk us through this?
Yes, so this is a plan that would approve a preliminary subdivision plan for the 2-lot proposed residential subdivision at 230 Dudley. It's essentially creating 2 lots with lot 1, that's the existing lot, would remain would keep the existing single-family home, but portions of the building and the deck and the roof and the garage, patio, walkways, driveways would be removed in order to get compliance with the lot standards under the code. But the main structure would remain intact, but it would create then a second lot that could be developed upon within lot 2. However, this plan does not propose any development with that lot, which means it could be done through a permit process at a later time. Because that would not be considered land development. So essentially what you're doing is approving the drawing of a line to create the 2 lots and allowing, as part of that, the renovations to the existing home to effectuate that line. There are 3 waivers that are requested for this. One of them is to waive the tentative sketch plan submission. Normally you do a tentative sketch plan, then the preliminary plan. But the applicant stating because of the minor nature of the subdivision and because there are no public improvements to be proposed, there's no stormwater, there's no sidewalks, they're asking for a waiver to not have to submit tentative plan first. The second is to create non-straight lines in order to maintain that house as they're proposed. They're also asking a waiver to not provide the maximum lot depth ratio of 2.5 to 1, but instead 2.8 to 1 in order to preserve the existing home. And the fourth is to not provide existing roads profiles because they are not providing new driveways or roadways with this project. So there are the 4 waivers that they're requesting. It would still need to come before council for final plan, subdivision plan approval. But again, there is no land development with this plan. I'm happy to answer any questions. And I do see Mr. Yan is here as well for details.
Oh, Mr. Yan, do you have anything to add? Oh, well, wait a moment. Ms. Rickards, you raised your hand for a question.
Sorry. So John, am I correct in saying then if we were to, let's say, not grant these waivers, that the property owner could demolish the existing house and build 2 single properties on the one existing property?
Cool. I would assume that they could. I would assume they could do that by right by creating lots that are conforming, and they are creating conforming lots for size-wise, not lot lines. But the only lot lines were done this way in order to maintain as much as they could of the existing house.
Mr. Young, would you like to address that question?
That's correct.
It could be subdivided. We'd have to go through the process, but it could be subdivided by right with a line perpendicular to the street that would not need a waiver. But if we did that, it would require the removal of more of the existing home.
Okay, thank you. I just want to confirm then these waivers allow for the existing house and structure to remain the same and the potential for a second property to be added. Thank you.
While creating a conforming second lot to it.
Correct. Thank you.
Other questions, comments? I don't see any. Do we call the question? Does anyone object to calling the question? All in favor? I see 6 hands. It's unanimous. Thank you. I see. Thanks, Ms. And
As a
moving
point of order,
on. Thank you, Mr. Walker, for that. Your help on that, Mr. Yan.
thank you. And that does include the granting of the waivers, just for clarity for the record. Were
The
there any
motion. Do
opposition?
you want to repeat, Cindy? For the record, would you kindly repeat the motion?
Sure. The motion is Borough Council adopt Resolution 2021-011 approving preliminary division plan for a 2-lot residential subdivision at 230 Dudley, and attached to that Resolution 2021-11 does in fact have the 4 waivers detailed in section 3. We see waiver A, B, C, D. So yes, John, to confirm then, that does in fact include the waivers.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for that, Cindy. All righty, moving on then. Mr. Yan, did you? Okay, thank you. Agenda part 7, information items. We have a borough manager's report. Item 7A, we do not have a borough manager's report today, right? We look forward to welcoming our new borough manager, Samantha Bryant, at the next meeting. She'll begin her first full day in the borough on May 24th. And meanwhile, we want to thank Michelle Carroll for her help as the office of manager. And we want to thank Mr. Dixon, particularly for his experienced leadership of the highway crew during this time. Agenda part 7, item B, the solicitor's report. Mr. Walker, do you have a report?
So just wanted to advise council that I have taken the steps to advertise the repeal of the temporary mask ordinance set for your June 2nd workshop meeting. So it's been advertised and submitted, and that should be in a position for your vote at that workshop meeting. I'm also tapped the brakes to address the historic preservation ordinance. My understanding is that after the last meeting, there is some more work needing for the Planning Commission. So I think it would be premature at this time to do legal review until we get additional revisions to that ordinance. So I won't be working on that ordinance, but I am still working on putting together the comprehensive stormwater revisions. And I've been in touch with Panoni and have gotten the proposed changes that the DEP is going to be requiring all municipalities to include in that. And I'm going to work those in to our ordinance, so we will be in good shape when those additional revisions would otherwise be needed necessary.
Thank you, John. Any questions for Mr. Walker about any of that, Mr. McGreevy, and then Mr. Bush?
John, I just wanted to clarify that built into our mask ordinance is the emergency allowance for our Zoom meetings, I believe. So I just wanted to clarify, if this council does vote on June 2nd to repeal the mask ordinance, then does that mean our subsequent meetings would be in person?
It really depends on what Governor Wolf is going to do as well. Governor Wolf has a right to extend the Commonwealth's emergency declaration. And the emergency declaration from the Commonwealth is what has provided all municipalities with the rights to have those non-in-person meetings. If Governor Wolf does not extend his declaration and council chooses to end their declaration, then yes, in-person meetings would need to resume after that time. Under the Borough Code, there needs to be a physical quorum in place. Doesn't mean everybody needs to be here, that you need to get rid of Zoom as an option, but in order to have a quorum, there at least need to be a majority of council members present in the room at the time. So we'll have to wait to see what Governor Wolf will do. And I think you will know that prior to the June 2nd. It might be actually tomorrow that the 90-day previous extension has been up. And council put that in there just in case the Commonwealth took action before they would have thought necessary to terminate that. But Governor Wolf has kept extending it multiple times, and it's still in place, at least through today, but not through June at this point.
Mr. Bush and then Ms. Rickards.
Yeah, so what's the timeline on the stormwater revisions? Do you have a sense of?
Yeah, I have to have something in the next few weeks. I could probably have something together before the next council meeting in June.
Great, thanks.
You know, Bob, I have lots of questions about returning to a full meeting and masks and having the public come in and limits to that. But I guess I can save that for when we're actually voting on that on June. My questions for June 10th.
Could you? Okay, yeah, let's do that since we don't have our borough council president here or our new manager. Why don't we hold on that?
Yeah, I suspect other municipalities are going to be asking the. Yeah, I think other places are probably going to be working through the same questions. So it might be a time for Andrea, you, and Samantha to kind of feel out like, how are other places handling public comment? You know, what if we got 50 people in the borough council rule and we couldn't mandate masks? Are we asking to see proof of vaccinations? You know, I'm curious the details on all of that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
I can tell you that the PSATs, the Pennsylvania Township Associations, and the Association of Boroughs are very interested in this. The majority of municipalities do like meeting via Zoom and would like to continue to do that at least through the summer. But again, whether or not they're given that option, people are hoping that it gets continued for that purpose. But certainly if it does get continued, that does not impact your ability to take any action on your ordinance as well.
Any more questions from Mr. Walko on his report? Anything more? Anything more, John?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Vice President.
Monthly reports. Item 7C, we've received the April-May borough financials. We have an April report from the Fire Chief Dixon. We have the Borough Engineers report from Mr. Johnson. And we have the tax collector's report from our tax collector, Regina Watson. And those are all in the packet. And in case anyone in the public's interested in seeing those are available to you on the Borough website. Item D, comments for the good of council. Do any councilors wish to share a comment for the good of council?
I have one comment and clarifying question.
Go for it.
I wanted to put on everyone's radar the junk week. I think it's called spring cleanup week though, is starting June 7th. June 1st is typically the then block party kickoff, right? When everyone has the block party and puts their stuff out. I was going to ask then, are we allowing for block parties? But Andrea, I think you answered the question when you said you're ending the state of emergency. So then June 1st would perfectly correlate with the kickoff of block party season, followed by spring cleanup week, correct?
There will be no state of emergency from the mayor's end on that date. I don't know if the office wants certain things filled out for block parties, for street closures. There used to be some forms that were filled out. Samantha Bryant should be able to answer that when she gets in.
Okay.
There are permits in the borough office for road closures for block parties.
Yeah, they might be available.
Okay.
Any other comments for the good of council? Okay. This is agenda part 8, new business, and I think under new business, it's my sense that for practical reasons, it probably makes sense for us to wait until we have our borough council president and our new borough manager, who will be Miss Bryant, who will be arriving in 24th of May. Is there any objection to that? Any reason not to wait? I'm just looking to see. Okay. And I guess the same would go for old business for practical reasons. Maybe it's more orderly for us to hold this discussion when we have our new manager. Or is there anything that cannot wait? Okay, great. Seeing nothing, brings us to adjournment. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
I move to adjourn.
Fred Bush. Second, Rob McGreevy. Thank you, everybody. It's 8:15. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Thanks, Bob.